Guys, welcome to the course of Level 8 API Development Tutorial. This is part number 12. Inside this video, we will create API. So if I back to slide, in the last video, we had done the migrations called employees, and for this table we will have the column called ID, name, email, phone number, gender and age. Now inside this video, we will create an API. By the help of that, we will create, or let's say we will add employees inside table. So if I back to editor, so this is the route we will use to create employee called add-employee. Now while calling this route, while calling this API, we need to pass some variables, or let's say some body parameters. By the help of that, we will create or register employee inside table. So we will get all the values from body parameters by the help of request instance. So here inside this block, because this is the method to create our employee. Now inside this create employee method, first of all, the first step we have to do validation. Next we need to create data, and finally send response. So the first step, that is validation. Let's request. We will use validate method, and inside this validate method we will pass an array, and the parameters we want, that is something name, email. Next we have called phone number, gender and age. Means all the needed parameters, means all these parameters are required. So we need to pass our validation rule. So let's say that the name field should be required. If I copy this, the email field should be required, phone number should be required, gender and age. Apart from this required rule, also we have the rule for email validation. Like what we have passed the value for this email address is valid email or not. Also we have the rule for maximum length and minimum length. Also we have the rule for integer value, or means to find that the value we have passed inside this age is an integer or a string value. So we are not going to discuss about all these validation rules. We are taking only the required form validation rule for all these field inputs. So this is what we have implemented all about validation. Now next, after validation, we need to create data and save into database. And one more thing, for this email we will use two more rules. One for the valid email called email. This property, this validation rule is going to check that the value we have passed is valid email or not. And the third, that is unique. It means we are using employees table, and we want that the email address we should enter for the first employee is not repeat suit for the second employee. So the email address should be unique throughout inside this employees table. So these are the rules we have applied for this email field here. So first of all, we need to load our model. So let's say use employee model. So we have now loaded our employee model. So by the help of employee model, we have two options to create and save data inside database table. The first is all about our save method, and the second we have called the create method. So we will use save method. Go here. First of all, let's create an instance. So employee new, and this is all about employee model. Now next, we need to assign values. So employee, we have the name column, and we will get the name value from the request is something request name. Again, if I copy, paste few times. Next field we have for the email address. So if I copy, this is the table column name, and this is the requested parameter. Next we have phone number. So copy, pasting it here. Next we have gender. So this is the name of the column, and the gender value we will get inside this gender. And finally we have the age. So copy and paste. Successfully now we have created an instance, assigned all the values, And finally we will use the save method. So let's say employee and save method. If we are talking all about the create method, so inside that syntax what we will do, employee, this is our model, we will use the create method, and inside this create method passing an array, and inside this array simply we need to write our column name and the value like request and name. We need to repeat this step for all the columns. So this is the another alternative way. But for this video, for this API, we are going to use the save method, so I'm not going to use that, remove that. So here we have the first step implemented called validation, created data, and finally creating employee, we need to return a response. So let's return response. We need to return the response in JSON format. Let's say status equals to 1 and message, let's employee created successfully. So save this change. Now successfully we have created our first API, that is create API. So to test this API, back to Postman. If I back to API.php, this is the route. So if I copy, we need to start development server. So let's say PHP artisan serve. If I copy this URL, so simply I will copy, go to Postman, pasting it here. This is our local host. Request type should be post. Headers, we need to pass here, let's say content type, application JSON. Also we want, let's say accept, application and JSON. So these are the two things like content type and accept we are passing inside this header. Go to body, select raw, and inside this, now inside this body we will pass our parameters into this JSON object. So we need name field, we need our email value, we need our phone number, and the two columns also we need for the gender and age. Now inside all these fields, let's say the value we are passing, this is our first employee. Here we have the email address of that employee. Phone number is something, the dummy value I am taking here. Next we have the gender and age. So let's say that 30 is the age. So this is what we are passing inside this raw, and inside these headers we have selected content type and accept. And one more thing, we need to add the route here because this is only for the local host right now. So go here inside this API.php, simply I will copy, go here. As we are using the route from API.php file, so API should be prefix, and after that this is the route. So if I copy, back to slide, the URL we are using to create the data is something like this, and the parameters what we have passed here, go to body. If I copy, back to slide and pasting it here. So this is all about a JSON object what we are passing. Back to Postman, click on send button, and here we have some error that is called column not found, that is unknown column updated at, and this is because actually we have removed the timestamp columns from this table, but actually we didn't call our model that we are not using timestamp values. So this is our mistake. So to correct that, what we have to do, go inside app, models, employee.php, because inside this table we are not using timestamp values, and by default Laravel model will look for all those columns as well. So we need to tell here, so let's say public, we are not using the timestamps, so timestamps equals to false. All we have done. If we again go here, back to table first, click on browse, Right now there is no row inserted. Back to Postman, click on send button again, and as we can see that employee created successfully. If I back to browser, click on browse, and as we can see that our first row now successfully inserted by the help of Create API. One more thing, if I copy this email address again and will try to do one more entry with this same email address, click on send button. As we can see that we are getting error, that is the email had already been taken. If suppose instead of all these values, if we pass the null value, click on send button. This is all about the handling by our validation what we have added. Inside these errors, the name field is required, email field is required, and the phone number field is required. So successfully guys, we had done the Create API, we had implemented validation, we have done create data as well as sending response. Now in the next video, we will see all about the concept of list employees. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.